Chapter 1. The knock that changed everything. Joshua Myers liked Saturdays. They were predictable, and predictability was his favorite kind of comfort. No alarms, no meetings, no deadlines, just him, his laptop, and a steaming mug of coffee that he refilled far too often. The quiet hum of his old ceiling fan was the soundtrack to his weekends, and today was no different. He sat at his desk in the corner of his living room, sunlight pooling across the hardwood floor, fingers tapping steadily on the keyboard. Evelyn, the fearless, superpowered heroine of his children's book series, was in the middle of rescuing a stranded puppy from a tree that had somehow grown legs and wandered into a city park. It was absurd, whimsical, and exactly what his readers loved. Joshua smiled faintly as he typed, pausing only to sip his coffee. 16 years of writing Evelyn's adventures, and he still found joy in her world. She was everything he wasn't: bold, unpredictable, larger than life. Maybe that was why kids adored her. Maybe that was why he kept writing her stories. The doorbell rang. Joshua froze, fingers hovering over the keys. He wasn't expecting anyone. His friends rarely dropped by without texting first, and his neighbors were the kind who waved politely from across the street but never crossed the property line. He set his mug down and walked to the door, his socks whispering against the floor. When he opened it, he found two teenage girls standing on his porch. One of them looked vaguely familiar, though Joshua was certain he'd never met her. She had chestnut hair pulled into a messy ponytail, sharp green eyes, and a nervous energy that radiated like static. The other girl was a complete stranger, shorter, with dark curls and an oversized hoodie that swallowed her frame. Joshua blinked. Can I help you?" The first girl exchanged a glance with her friend, then looked back at him. Her voice trembled slightly when she spoke. "Is your name Joshua Myers?" Joshua's curiosity spiked. "Yes," he said slowly. "That's me." The girls looked at each other again, and Joshua felt the air shift, like the moment before a storm breaks. "Is your birthday on March 7th? The girl asked. Joshua's brows knitted. "How do you know that?" Her throat bobbed as she swallowed hard. "Because I think you're my dad." Joshua's mind went blank. For a split second, he wondered if he'd had a stroke. Everything around him, the porch, the girls, the winter sunlight, blurred into static. He could still see them staring at him, but his brain had hit the reset button. When thought finally returned, it came in fragments. "Dad? Me? What?" Joshua stared at the girl. She didn't look like someone pulling a prank. Her eyes were steady, though rimmed with anxiety. Her friend shifted awkwardly, clearly wishing she were anywhere else. Joshua opened his mouth, closed it, then opened it again. What?" The girl took a deep breath, words tumbling out in a rush. "I'm sorry to bother you. I don't even know how to start. I've been trying to find you for months, and..." Joshua raised his hands gently, palms out. "Whoa, okay. Slow down. Take your time." She looked like she was on the verge of tears, but she pressed on. I did a DNA test, for ancestry, and it said you're my biological father." Joshua felt the porch tilt beneath him. He gripped the doorframe like it might keep him tethered to reality. He had girlfriends before, sure, but none at the time this girl would have been born. None that made sense. Not wanting to give the neighbors a front row seat to his existential crisis, Joshua stepped aside. "Come in," he said quietly. The girls exchanged another glance, then crossed the threshold. Joshua shut the door behind them, his heartbeat loud in his ears. Can I get you something? Water? Soda?" His voice sounded foreign, like it belonged to someone else. "Water's fine," the girl said softly. Joshua fetched 2 glasses from the kitchen, his thoughts spinning like a carousel gone rogue. When he returned, the girls were perched on the edge of his couch, hands clasped tightly in their laps. He handed them the water and sat across from them, leaning forward. "Okay," he said, trying to sound calm. "Start from the beginning." The girl nodded. "My name's Lily. This is my friend, Harper." She gestured to the girl in the hoodie, who gave a small wave. "I found out last year that the man who raised me isn't my biological father. My mom told me she used a sperm donor, so I did the DNA test, and it led me to you." Joshua stared at her, words lodged in his throat. Chapter 2: Coffee and DNA. Joshua had always thought his life was simple, predictable, a neat stack of routines like the manuscripts he edited every day, clean, orderly, and free of surprises. But now, sitting across from 2 teenagers in his living room, he felt like someone had taken his tidy stack and tossed it into a hurricane. He stared at Lily, her fingers curled around the glass of water he'd given her. She looked calm on the surface, but her eyes betrayed the storm beneath. Harper, the friend, sat beside her like a silent bodyguard, scrolling on her phone but glancing up every few seconds as if ready to intervene. Joshua cleared his throat, trying to sound less like a man whose entire reality had just been rewritten. "So, you found me through a DNA test?" Lily nodded. "Yeah, it was one of those ancestry kits. My mom got it for me last Christmas. I thought it would be fun, see if I had Viking blood or something." She gave a nervous laugh. "Instead, I got you." Joshua blinked. "That's quite the surprise gift." Harper smirked without looking up. Better than socks. Joshua shot her a look, then turned back to Lily. And your mom? She told you about the donor? She told me after I showed her the results, Lily said softly. She said she never thought I'd want to find you. But I did. I've been searching for months. Joshua leaned back, exhaling slowly. Wow. He rubbed his temples, trying to process. He wasn't angry. He wasn't even upset. Just stunned. Like someone had handed him a script for a play he didn't audition for. Look, Lily said quickly. I'm not here to mess up your life. I don't want money or anything. I want to know who you are. That's all. Joshua studied her face. The green eyes, the faint dimple when she spoke. His eyes, his dimple. It was like looking into a mirror tilted 20 years back. He swallowed hard. I appreciate that. Really. But I need to be honest. This is a lot for me. I know, Lily whispered. Joshua stood abruptly, needing motion to keep from unraveling. Coffee, he muttered. I need coffee. You want some? Lily shook her head. Harper shrugged. I'll take one. Joshua managed a weak smile. Figures. He retreated to the kitchen, the familiar clink of mugs grounding him. As he poured the coffee, his thoughts spiraled. What does this mean? Am I a dad now? Do I have responsibilities? Are there laws about this? He pictured himself Googling legal rights of sperm donors at 2 in the morning, which, knowing him, would happen tonight. When he returned, Harper accepted the mug with a grin. Joshua sat down again, gripping his own cup like a lifeline. Okay, he said slowly. Here's what I remember. Back in college, I had a car accident. Repairs cost more than I had. I was broke, desperate. So, I made a donation to a sperm bank. One time. I never thought about it again. Lily nodded, her expression softening. That makes sense. Joshua gave a humorless laugh. Does it? Because right now, nothing makes sense. Harper leaned back. Honestly, it's kind of cool. Like a plot twist in a movie. Joshua arched a brow. A comedy or a horror film? Depends on the ending, Harper said with a smirk. Joshua shook his head, chuckling despite himself. You kids. He turned back to Lily, his tone gentler. I want to do this right. I don't want to cause trouble for you or your mom. Could you set up a meeting with her? Lily's face lit with relief. Yes, absolutely. She'll agree. Good, Joshua said, feeling a fraction of the weight lift. In the meantime, you can ask me anything. About me, my family. Whatever you want. Lily hesitated, then smiled shyly. What do you do? Joshua relaxed a little. I'm a senior editor at a publishing house. Been there for years. Her eyes widened. That's really cool. Joshua shrugged. Depends on your definition of cool. Mostly it's deadlines and coffee stains. Harper grinned. Sounds glamorous. Joshua smirked. Oh, it's a thrill ride. Lily tilted her head. Do you write? Joshua froze for a beat, then nodded. Yeah, on the side. What kind of stuff? Joshua hesitated, then said, children's books. Lily's brows shot up. Seriously? Joshua smiled faintly. Seriously? What's the main character's name? Lily asked. Joshua hesitated, then said softly, Evelyn. Lily blinked. No way. Joshua's stomach flipped. Why? Lily's lips curved into a smile. That's my middle name. Joshua stared at her, the coincidence hitting like a punch. You're kidding. She shook her head. Mom picked it because she liked the sound. Joshua let out a shaky laugh, half in awe, half in disbelief. That's wild. Harper frowned. Okay. That's creepy. Joshua ignored her, his mind spinning. Evelyn, the name he invented 16 years ago for a character that became a phenomenon. A name he pulled from thin air. And now it belonged to his daughter. Joshua leaned back, staring at the ceiling. I don't believe in fate, he murmured. But wow. Lily smiled softly. Maybe you should. Joshua looked at her, something warm stirring in his chest, a feeling he hadn't felt in years. Hope, maybe, or the terrifying thrill of unpredictability. For the first time in his life, Joshua Myers wondered if his story was about to get interesting. Chapter 3, Evelyn and Coincidences. Joshua Myers had never believed in fate. He believed in deadlines, in grammar rules, in the comforting certainty that coffee would always taste better after midnight edits. Fate was for novels, not real life. But now, sitting alone in his living room after Lily and Harper had left, he wasn't so sure. Evelyn. Her middle name was Evelyn. Joshua stared at the word scribbled on a notepad in front of him, as if writing it down would make it less surreal. 16 years ago, he'd plucked that name out of thin air for a character in a children's book, a fearless girl who taught life lessons while battling sentient furniture and mischievous squirrels. He could have chosen any name. And yet, here he was, staring at the same name belonging to a flesh-and-blood teenager who claimed to be his daughter. He rubbed his temples, muttering to himself. What are the odds? 1 in a million. 1 in a billion. He reached for his phone, half tempted to Google it, then stopped. No, he needed a voice of reason. Or at least a voice that could laugh at this cosmic joke. He scrolled through his contacts and tapped on Ben Carter, his best friend since college, the guy who had witnessed every awkward chapter of Joshua's life. Ben answered on the second ring. Josh, my man, what's up? Ben's voice boomed through the speaker, cheerful and oblivious. Joshua hesitated. You got a minute? For you? Always. Unless you're calling to ask if I can help you move a couch. Then I'm busy. Joshua managed a weak chuckle. No couches. Just something weird. Ben snorted. Weird like you bought a cat? Or weird like you joined a cult? Joshua sighed. Weirder. Hit me. Joshua took a breath. So, a girl showed up at my door today. Ben whistled. Finally. Josh, my man, you're back in the game. Joshua groaned. Not like that. Oh, then, Girl Scout cookies. Joshua pinched the bridge of his nose. Ben. She said she's my daughter. Silence. Then a loud, incredulous laugh. You're what? My daughter. Joshua repeated, his voice flat. Ben laughed harder. Josh, you've been single since the Bush administration. How? She did a DNA test. Joshua cut in. Turns out, she's right. Ben stopped laughing. Wait, are you serious? Dead serious. Ben whistled again, this time low and slow. Okay, back up. How is that even possible? Joshua leaned back, staring at the ceiling. Remember that car accident in college? The one that wiped out my savings. Yeah. I made a donation. To a sperm bank. Ben let out a bark of laughter. Oh my God. Josh, you're living in a sitcom. Joshua groaned. Don't say that. No, seriously. This is gold. Guy donates sperm, thinks nothing of it, and boom, 18 years later, surprise kid at the door. Netflix would eat this up. Joshua rubbed his face. Ben. Okay, Ben said, still chuckling. So what now? You gonna be dad of the year? Joshua stared at the notepad again. I don't know. I told her I'd meet her mom. Make sure it's okay. Sounds reasonable, Ben said. What's she like? Joshua hesitated, then smiled faintly. Smart, nervous, kind of stubborn. She has my eyes. Ben softened. Wow. Joshua nodded slowly. And her middle name is Evelyn. Ben paused. Like your character? Joshua let out a shaky laugh. Exactly like my character. Ben whistled. Okay, that's spooky. Joshua leaned forward, elbows on his knees. What does that even mean? Is that fate? Coincidence? Some cosmic joke? Ben snorted. Josh, buddy, you're overthinking. It's just life being weird. Joshua stared at the floor. Life doesn't usually get this weird for me. Maybe it's about time, Ben said gently. You've been living in a bubble, man. Editing books, writing stories, hiding behind Evelyn. Maybe this is the universe giving you a plot twist. Joshua chuckled softly. Plot twist, huh? Yeah, Ben said. And you know what? Plot twists make stories interesting. Joshua sat in silence, Ben's words echoing in his head. Plot twists. Interesting. Two things his life had never been until today. He glanced at the notepad again, at the name that had somehow bridged fiction and reality. Evelyn. Maybe Ben was right. Maybe this was his plot twist. Joshua picked up his pen and wrote one more word beneath the name. Lily. For the first time in years, Joshua felt something stir inside him. A mix of fear, hope, and the thrilling uncertainty of a story just beginning. Chapter 4: The Mother Meeting. Joshua Myers had faced plenty of intimidating moments in his life. Pitch meetings with best-selling authors, contract negotiations, even the occasional live Q /A where a kid asked why Evelyn didn't have a pet dragon. But nothing compared to the knot in his stomach as he stood outside the cafe, waiting to meet Claire. Claire, Lily's mother. The woman who, 18 years ago, had chosen his anonymous donation to start a family. Joshua had no idea what to expect. Anger? Gratitude? Awkward silence? All of the above? He checked his watch for the 5th time, then glanced at the cafe window. Warm light spilled onto the sidewalk, mingling with the crisp January air. Inside, people laughed over steaming mugs, oblivious to the existential crisis brewing on the curb. Joshua tugged at his jacket collar, wishing he'd worn something less editorish. His usual uniform, dark sweater, jeans, sensible boots, screamed man who alphabetizes his spice rack. Not exactly the vibe he wanted for this meeting. The door opened, and Joshua's breath caught. She was nothing like he imagined. Claire wasn't severe or intimidating. She wasn't the caricature of a furious mother demanding answers. She was warm. Her auburn hair framed a face that carried the kind of beauty that didn't shout. It whispered. Her eyes, a soft hazel, scanned the crowd before landing on him. Joshua raised a hand awkwardly. Claire. She smiled, small, cautious, but genuine. Joshua. He nodded, his throat suddenly dry. That's me. They stepped inside together, the hum of conversation wrapping around them like a buffer. Claire led the way to a corner table, and Joshua followed, feeling like a man walking into a job interview he hadn't prepared for. Once seated, Claire folded her hands on the table. Thank you for meeting me. Joshua managed to smile. Thank you for not suing me. Her laugh was soft, unexpected. I'm not here to sue you. Joshua exhaled, tension easing a fraction. Good to know. A server appeared, and they ordered coffee. Black for Joshua, latte for Claire. When the server left, silence settled between them, thick but not hostile. Joshua cleared his throat. So, Lily, he began. She's incredible. Claire's expression softened. She is. She's my whole world. Joshua nodded. I can see why. Claire studied him for a moment, her gaze steady but not unkind. You look nervous. Joshua gave a humorless chuckle. That obvious? Only a little, she said, lips curving faintly. Don't worry. I'm not here to make this harder than it already is. Joshua leaned forward, elbows on the table. I just want to do this right. For her. For you. Claire tilted her head. What does right look like to you? Joshua hesitated. I don't know yet. I've never been in this situation before. Her smile widened slightly. Neither have I. Their coffees arrived, and Joshua wrapped his hands around his mug, grateful for the warmth. I want to be clear, he said slowly. I'm not trying to take over or disrupt your life. Claire nodded. I appreciate that. Joshua searched for words, then settled on honesty. I want to know her, if that's okay. Claire's eyes softened. It's okay. Joshua blinked. Really? She nodded. She's old enough to make her own choices, and she's curious. About you. Joshua felt something loosen in his chest, a knot he hadn't realized was strangling him. Thank you. Claire sipped her latte, her gaze thoughtful. You know, she said lightly, when I picked your profile all those years ago, I never imagined this. Joshua chuckled. Neither did I. Her lips curved. You were listed as creative. That's why I chose you. Joshua raised a brow. Creative. She nodded. It said you liked writing. Joshua laughed softly. Well, that part was true. Claire tilted her head. What do you write? Joshua hesitated, then smiled. Children's books. Her brows lifted. Really? Joshua nodded. A series. About a girl named Evelyn. Claire froze, then laughed. A warm, melodic sound that caught Joshua off guard. You're kidding. Joshua grinned. Nope. That's Lily's middle name, Claire said, shaking her head. What are the odds? Joshua smiled faintly. I've been asking myself that all day. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Two strangers bound by a choice made decades ago. Now sitting across a table, sharing coffee and coincidences. Joshua cleared his throat, breaking the spell. So what now? Claire's smile lingered. Now, we figure it out. One step at a time. Joshua nodded slowly, feeling something unexpected stir in his chest. A flicker of hope, warm and terrifying. For the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about deadlines or manuscripts. He was thinking about possibilities. And maybe, just maybe, that wasn't such a bad thing. Chapter 5 Dad Training 101. Joshua Myers had edited hundreds of parenting books over the years. He knew all the buzzwords: positive reinforcement, active listening, quality time. He could quote entire chapters about building trust with teenagers. But none of that prepared him for the reality of standing in a bowling alley, wearing rented shoes that smelled faintly of despair, while his newly discovered daughter watched him like he was about to perform a magic trick. This is going to be fun, Lily said, her green eyes sparkling with mischief. Harper, her ever-present sidekick, leaned against the ball return, scrolling on her phone but smirking every time Joshua glanced her way. Joshua eyed the neon-lit lanes, the cacophony of pins crashing, and the faint scent of nachos and shoe disinfectant. Define fun, he muttered. Lily grinned. You've bowled before, right? Joshua hesitated. Once, in college. I think I scored 12. Harper snorted. 12? That's not even possible. Joshua shrugged. It was a rough night. Lily laughed, the sound bright and unguarded. Joshua felt something warm bloom in his chest, a fragile thread connecting them, woven through humor and shared absurdity. Okay, Lily said, grabbing a ball with practiced ease. Watch and learn. She stepped up to the lane, swung her arm, and sent the ball gliding smoothly down the polished wood, curved gracefully, knocking down 8 pins. Lily turned, triumphant. See? Easy. Joshua clapped lightly. Impressive. Harper smirked. Your turn, Dad. Joshua froze at the word Dad. It landed like a pebble in a still pond, rippling outward. He wasn't sure he deserved it yet, but hearing it made something inside him shift. He approached the lane, hefting a ball that felt heavier than his existential crisis. He lined up his shot, took a breath and swung. The ball veered sharply left, slammed into the gutter, and disappeared with a mocking clatter. Harper burst out laughing. Lily tried and failed to stifle a giggle. Joshua turned, deadpan. I meant to do that. Sure you did, Harper said, wiping tears from her eyes. Joshua grinned despite himself. Okay, round 2. The next attempt was marginally better. 2 pins toppled, wobbling like they were reconsidering their life choices. Joshua raised his arms in mock victory. Progress. Lily clapped, her smile genuine. You're getting there. Joshua felt a strange surge of pride. Not for the pins, but for the laughter. For the way Lily's eyes lit up when she teased him. For the fact that, for the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about deadlines or manuscripts. He was thinking about her. They played 2 more rounds, Joshua improving from catastrophic to mediocre. Harper documented every gutter ball for what she promised would be a viral TikTok. Joshua didn't care. He was too busy soaking in the sound of Lily's laughter, the rhythm of pins crashing, the simple joy of being present. After the game, they collapsed into a booth with greasy fries and sodas. Lily leaned forward, chin resting on her hand. "So, Evelyn," she said casually. Joshua blinked. "What about her? She's your character, right? The one you write about." Joshua nodded. "Yeah." Lily smiled. "I read one of your books. Harper found it online." Joshua's stomach flipped. "You did?" "Yeah," Lily said. "It was amazing. Funny. Smart. Evelyn's awesome." Joshua felt heat creep up his neck. Praise from readers was nice, but praise from Lily? That was something else entirely. "Thanks," he said softly. Lily tilted her head. "You know, she kind of reminds me of you." Joshua laughed. "Me? Evelyn fights crime with a talking toaster." Lily grinned. "Yeah, but she's brave. She does the right thing, even when it's hard." Joshua stared at her, words lodged in his throat. Brave wasn't a word he'd ever used for himself, but maybe, sitting here with Lily trying to figure out fatherhood one gutter ball at a time, maybe he was learning. Harper broke the moment with a dramatic sigh. "Okay, sentimental hour's over. Who's paying for fries?" Joshua chuckled, reaching for his wallet. "I've got it." As he handed the server his card, Joshua realized something. This wasn't just a bowling alley. It was a beginning. Messy, awkward, imperfect, but real. And for the first time in his life, Joshua Myers didn't want predictable. He wanted this. Chapter 6, the book signing disaster. Joshua Myers had spent years hiding behind his pen name. It wasn't that he was ashamed of writing children's books. Far from it. He loved Evelyn and her wild adventures. But anonymity gave him freedom. No interviews, no awkward fan encounters, no pressure to be fun in person. Just him, his laptop, and a world of talking toasters. So when Lily asked if he could take her to a book signing for Evelyn and the Clockwork Circus, Joshua hesitated. The event was at a local bookstore, packed with kids in superhero capes and parents juggling juice boxes. It was his book, his words, his world. And yet, no one knew the man behind the magic. Perfect. He could blend in, watch from the sidelines, and let Lily enjoy the day. Or so he thought. The bookstore buzzed with energy. Bright posters of Evelyn plastered on every wall, stacks of books forming colorful towers. Joshua lingered near the back, hands shoved in his jacket pockets, while Lily and Harper darted toward the signing table like magnets. The author's name, his pen name, was printed in bold letters on a banner, J.M. Rivers. Joshua stared at it, feeling oddly detached, like he was watching someone else's life unfold. Lily returned, clutching a copy of the latest book. "This is so cool," she said, eyes shining. "I can't believe you wrote this." Joshua smiled faintly. "Glad you like it." Harper smirked. "You should tell people. You're basically famous." Joshua shook his head. "Nope. I'm just a guy who writes stories." Before Harper could retort, a voice boomed from the front of the store. "Ladies and gentlemen, J.M. Rivers will be here in 5 minutes." The crowd erupted in cheers. Joshua's stomach dropped. He hadn't planned for this. He thought the signing was just a display, not an actual appearance. He glanced toward the door, calculating escape routes. "Are you okay?" Lily asked, noticing his sudden tension. Joshua forced a smile. "Fine. Just, crowds aren't my thing." Lily tilted her head. "You don't have to stay if you don't want to." Joshua hesitated. He wanted to leave. He wanted to bolt. But then he saw Lily's excitement, the way she clutched the book like it was treasure. He couldn't ruin this for her. "I'll stick around," he said quietly. Minutes later, the store manager announced that J.M. Rivers had been delayed due to traffic. Groans rippled through the crowd. Joshua exhaled, relief washing over him. Maybe he could slip out now unnoticed. But fate, his new, unwelcome companion, had other plans. Lily, oblivious to Joshua's internal panic, turned to Harper and said loudly, "It's so weird standing here when the real author is right next to us." Joshua froze. Heads turned. Conversations paused. A dozen curious faces swiveled toward him. Harper grinned like a cat with cream. "Oh yeah," she said, voice carrying. "Joshua Myers. J.M. Rivers. Same guy." Joshua's soul left his body. The manager blinked, then hurried over, eyes wide. "Wait, are you?" Joshua raised his hands, palms out, like a man caught in a crime. Surprise." The crowd erupted. Parents whispered. Kids squealed. Someone shouted, "Sign my book!" And suddenly Joshua was surrounded by tiny humans wielding Sharpies like weapons. Lily beamed, pride radiating from her like sunlight. Harper filmed the chaos, no doubt planning to upload it with the caption, "When your dad is secretly famous." Joshua sat at the signing table, heart pounding. as a line formed faster than he could process. He scrawled his name on book after book, answering questions about Evelyn, smiling for selfies, trying not to hyperventilate. "Do you really have a talking toaster at home?" one kid asked. Joshua grinned. "Not yet, but I'm working on it." Laughter rippled through the crowd. For the first time, Joshua felt something unexpected. A thrill, not fear, not dread, but joy, pure, chaotic joy. When the event finally ended, Joshua collapsed into a chair, exhausted but oddly exhilarated. Lily hugged him tight, her voice soft against his ear. "I'm proud of you," she whispered. Joshua swallowed hard, emotion catching him off guard. "Thanks," he murmured. "I'm proud of you too." As they left the bookstore, Joshua realized something. His secret was out. His quiet, predictable life had been shattered. And he didn't mind, not one bit. Chapter 7, Claire's Guard Drops. Joshua Myers had never been good at reading people. He could dissect a manuscript in minutes, spot a dangling modifier from across the room, but human emotions? Those were trickier. So when Claire invited him to meet at a quiet park on Sunday afternoon, he wasn't sure what to expect. The park was serene, bare trees etched against a pale winter sky, kids bundled in coats chasing soccer balls across frosted grass. Joshua arrived early, as he always did, pacing near a bench until he saw her approaching. Claire looked different in daylight, softer. Her auburn hair caught the sun, and her hazel eyes held something he couldn't quite name. Guarded, but not cold. She wore a navy coat, a scarf tucked neatly at her collar, and carried herself with the calm confidence of someone who had weathered storms and learned how to stand steady. "Hi," Joshua said, his voice awkwardly bright. "Hi," Claire replied, her smile small but genuine. "Thanks for coming." Joshua gestured to the bench. "Shall we?" They sat, a polite distance between them, the winter air crisp enough to sting. Joshua shoved his hands into his pockets, searching for words that didn't sound rehearsed. "I wanted to thank you," he began, "for letting me spend time with Lily." Claire's lips curved faintly. "She likes you." Joshua blinked. "She does." Claire nodded. "She talks about you. A lot." Joshua felt something warm bloom in his chest, a fragile, unexpected joy. "That's good to hear." Silence stretched, filled by the distant laughter of children. Joshua cleared his throat. "I hope I'm not overstepping." Claire tilted her head. "Overstepping?" Joshua shrugged. "Showing up. Bowling. Book signings. I don't want to disrupt her life." Claire studied him for a moment, her gaze steady. "You're not disrupting. You're filling a space she's been curious about for years." Joshua swallowed hard. "I just want to do right by her." Claire's smile softened. "You're doing fine." Joshua exhaled, tension easing a fraction. "That means a lot." For a moment, they sat in companionable silence, watching a golden retriever bound across the grass. Then Claire spoke, her voice quieter, tinged with something Joshua couldn't quite place. "When I chose a donor," she said, "I wasn't thinking about this. About someday sitting on a bench with him." Joshua chuckled softly. "Neither was I." Her lips curved. "I picked you because your profile said, creative. I wanted Lily to have that." Joshua smiled faintly. "Well, she does." Claire's eyes warmed. "She's always been imaginative. Always asking questions. I think that's you." Joshua stared at the ground, humbled in a way he hadn't expected. "She's incredible." "She is," Claire agreed, her voice thick with pride. Joshua hesitated, then asked, "Was it hard? Raising her alone?" Claire's expression shifted, guarded, then open, like a door creaking on its hinges. "Sometimes," she admitted. "But she made it worth it." Joshua nodded slowly. "You did a good job." Claire laughed softly. "Thanks. I don't hear that often." Joshua turned to her, something stirring in his chest, a mix of admiration and something warmer, something he hadn't felt in years. "You deserve to." Their eyes met, and for a heartbeat, the world seemed to still, the laughter, the barking dog, the distant hum of traffic fading into silence. Joshua felt the weight of possibility pressing against his ribs, terrifying and exhilarating all at once. Claire looked away first, her smile lingering. "So," she said lightly, "what's next for Evelyn?" Joshua blinked, startled by the shift. "Evelyn," Claire grinned. "Lily told me all about her." Joshua chuckled. "She's saving a city from sentient furniture this time." Claire laughed, a warm, melodic sound that wrapped around Joshua like sunlight. "Sounds like fun." Joshua smiled, his heart thudding in a rhythm he hadn't heard in years. Fun. Maybe that was what this was. Maybe that was what he'd been missing. As they stood to leave, Joshua realized something. Claire wasn't just Lily's mother. She was a woman who had built a life out of strength and grace. And for the first time, Joshua wondered, not as an editor, not as a writer, but as a man, what it would be like to be part of that life. Chapter 8, The Awkward Double Date. Joshua Myers had agreed to many questionable things in his life. Editing a 900-page fantasy epic in 2 weeks, eating sushi from a gas station, but agreeing to take Lily and Harper to a concert? That was a new level of chaos. It's not a big deal, Lily had said, her voice sweet and persuasive. Just a local band. Harper's mom can't drive us, and you're cool. Joshua had blinked at that last part. Cool? Me? He wasn't sure if Lily meant it or if it was teenage diplomacy, but the word had lodged in his chest like a fragile badge of honor. So here he was, standing outside a neon-lit venue on a chilly Friday night, flanked by two teenagers vibrating with excitement. The air smelled of popcorn and pavement, and the muffled thump of bass leaked through the doors. Joshua adjusted his jacket, scanning the crowd. Okay, ground rules, he said. Stay where I can see you. No disappearing into mosh pits. Harper smirked. It's indie pop, not death metal. Joshua raised a brow. Still counts. Before Harper could fire back, a familiar voice cut through the noise. Joshua. He turned and froze. Claire stood a few feet away, her auburn hair catching the glow of the marquee lights. She wore a casual sweater and jeans, her scarf looped loosely around her neck. She looked effortless, and Joshua suddenly forgot how to breathe. Claire, he said, his voice awkwardly bright. Hi. She smiled, warm and amused. Lily texted me. Said you were taking them. I thought I'd tag along. Joshua blinked. Tag along. Claire shrugged. Chaperone duty. 2 sets of eyes are better than 1. Joshua nodded, trying to ignore the way his pulse had spiked. Right? Makes sense. Lily grinned, oblivious to the tension simmering between the adults. Cool. You can hang out with us. Joshua shot her a look. Pretty sure you don't want that. Harper smirked. Speak for yourself. I think this is hilarious. Joshua groaned softly. Of course you do. Inside, the venue pulsed with energy. Colored lights sweeping across the crowd. Music vibrating through the floor. Joshua and Claire found a spot near the back, while Lily and Harper darted toward the stage like arrows. Joshua shoved his hands into his pockets, glancing at Claire. So, this is unexpected. Claire smiled faintly. I didn't want you to suffer alone. Joshua chuckled. Appreciate that. They stood in companionable silence for a moment, watching Lily and Harper weave through the crowd. Then Claire spoke, her voice light but tinged with curiosity. Do you go to concerts often? Joshua laughed. Me? No. My idea of excitement is finding a typo in a bestseller. Claire grinned. Sounds thrilling. Joshua smirked. Don't knock it until you've tried it. Her laugh was warm, and Joshua felt something stir in his chest, a flicker of ease, of connection. He wasn't sure if it was the music or the way her eyes crinkled when she smiled, but suddenly, the chaos didn't feel so overwhelming. Halfway through the set, Lily returned, breathless and glowing. This is amazing, she shouted over the music. Joshua smiled. Glad you're having fun. Claire leaned down, brushing a strand of hair from Lily's face. The gesture was tender, instinctive, and Joshua felt a pang of admiration so sharp it startled him. Claire wasn't just strong. She was gentle, and that combination was dangerous, for his heart, anyway. When the concert ended, they spilled into the cool night air, laughter mingling with the distant hum of traffic. Lily and Harper chattered nonstop, replaying every moment, while Joshua and Claire walked a few steps behind. That wasn't so bad, Claire said, her tone teasing. Joshua grinned. Speak for yourself. My ears are filing a complaint. Claire laughed, and Joshua found himself laughing too. Really laughing, the kind that loosened something inside him. As they reached the parking lot, Lily looped her arm through Joshua's. Thanks, Dad, she said softly. Joshua froze at the word Dad. It landed differently this time. He didn't flinch. He didn't question. He just felt it, warm and solid like a door opening. Claire glanced at him, her smile lingering. And Joshua realized something. Tonight wasn't just about Lily. It was about possibility. About the way life could surprise you when you least expected it. And for the first time, Joshua didn't want to run from that surprise. He wanted to see where it led. Chapter 9, Evelyn Saves the Day. Joshua Myers had never thought his writing skills would come in handy for high school homework. Yet here he was, sitting at his kitchen table with Lily, surrounded by colored markers, loose leaf paper, and the faint smell of pizza rolls cooling on a plate. It's a creative writing project, Lily explained, tapping her pencil against the table. We're supposed to write a short story about overcoming a challenge. I had an idea, but it's kind of boring. Joshua smiled. Boring is fixable. Lily grinned. That's what I was hoping. Joshua leaned back, folding his arms. Okay, tell me your idea. Lily shrugged. It's about a girl who's scared to try out for the soccer team. She practices, gets better, and makes the team. Joshua tilted his head. Solid concept. But what if we make it bigger? Lily's eyes lit up. Bigger how? Joshua grinned. What if the soccer ball is enchanted, and every time she kicks it, it talks back? Lily burst out laughing. That's ridiculous. Joshua winked. Ridiculous is my specialty. They spent the next hour brainstorming, laughter spilling between them like sunlight. The story morphed into a wild adventure. A girl named Mia who discovers her soccer ball is a magical creature that teaches her courage through riddles and challenges. Joshua guided Lily gently, letting her ideas lead while sprinkling in just enough whimsy to make the tale sparkle. By the time they finished, Lily was glowing with pride. "This is awesome," she said, holding up the pages like a trophy. "Thank you." Joshua smiled, warmth flooding his chest. "You did most of the work." Lily shook her head. "You made it fun." Before Joshua could respond, the doorbell rang. He frowned, rising to answer, and froze when he saw Claire standing on the porch, her cheeks pink from the cold. "Hi," she said, smiling. "I hope I'm not interrupting." Joshua blinked, then stepped aside. "Not at all. Come in." Claire entered, her gaze sweeping the table cluttered with papers and markers. "Looks like serious business." Joshua chuckled. "Creative writing project." Claire's eyes softened as she looked at Lily. "Having fun?" Lily grinned. "The best. Dad's awesome at this." Joshua's heart stuttered at the word, Dad, spoken so easily, so naturally. He glanced at Claire, expecting surprise, but her expression was unreadable. Warm, maybe, thoughtful. Claire picked up a page, scanning the story. "This is wonderful," she said, genuine admiration in her voice. "You're talented." Joshua felt heat creep up his neck. "Thanks, it's kind of my thing." Claire smiled, and for a moment, the air shifted lighter, warmer, charged with something Joshua couldn't name. He saw it in her eyes, in the way her fingers lingered on the paper, in the curve of her lips when she looked at him. Lily broke the spell with a dramatic sigh. "Okay, you two stop making googly eyes. We have homework to finish." Joshua choked on a laugh. Claire flushed, laughing too. "She's impossible," she murmured. Joshua grinned. "Wonder where she gets that from." They spent the rest of the evening chatting, laughter weaving through the room like music. When Claire finally stood to leave, Joshua walked her to the door, his pulse thrumming in a rhythm he hadn't felt in years. "Thanks for letting me crash," she said softly. Joshua smiled. "Crash anytime." Their eyes met, and for a heartbeat, the world narrowed to that single moment. The quiet hum of possibility, the warmth of something new blooming between them. When the door closed behind her, Joshua leaned against it, exhaling slowly. Evelyn had saved the day in Lily's story. But tonight felt like Evelyn had saved him too. Chapter 10, The Big Misunderstanding. Joshua Myers had been riding a quiet wave of optimism for days. Things were good, better than good. He was spending time with Lily, laughing more than he had in years. And Claire was no longer just Lily's mother. She was someone Joshua looked forward to seeing, someone whose smile lingered in his mind long after she left. So when Lily invited him to her school's winter showcase, Joshua didn't hesitate. He pictured Claire there too, maybe sitting beside him, sharing jokes about awkward teenage performances. It felt like another step forward. But optimism, Joshua was learning, had a cruel sense of humor. The auditorium buzzed with chatter, the scent of popcorn and floor polish mingling in the air. Joshua arrived early, scanning the rows for Lily. He spotted her near the stage, laughing with friends, and his chest warmed. He turned to find a seat, and froze when he heard Claire's voice behind him. "I just don't want him too involved." Joshua stilled, the words slicing through the hum of conversation like a blade. He glanced over his shoulder. Claire stood a few feet away, speaking to another parent, her tone low but firm. "I mean, Lily's excited," Claire continued, unaware of Joshua's presence. "But this is delicate. I don't want him thinking he can just step in and take over." Joshua's stomach dropped. The warmth that had carried him through the past week evaporated, replaced by a cold, hollow ache. "Take over? Is that what she thinks I'm doing?" He turned away, his pulse pounding in his ears. The laughter, the shared moments, the easy conversations, they all felt like illusions now, fragile and foolish. He'd misread everything. Claire didn't want him close. She tolerated him for Lily's sake, nothing more. Joshua slipped into a seat at the back, his hands clenched in his lap. The showcase blurred, a parade of skits and songs he barely registered. Lily's performance was bright and joyful, but Joshua could hardly muster a smile. His mind replayed Claire's words on a loop, each repetition tightening the knot in his chest. After the show, Lily bounded toward him, her face glowing. "Did you see? Wasn't it great?" Joshua forced a smile. "You were amazing." She grinned, oblivious to the storm brewing behind his eyes. "Mom's getting the car. Want to come to dinner with us?" Joshua hesitated, the invitation twisting like a knife. Dinner. With Claire. Pretending everything was fine while knowing she didn't want him there. "I can't," he said, his voice rough. "I've got work." Lily's smile faltered. "Oh, okay." Joshua hugged her quickly, murmured something about deadlines, and left before Claire returned. The cold night air hit him like a slap, but he welcomed it. At least it matched the chill inside him. Driving home, Joshua gripped the steering wheel, his thoughts a tangled mess. He'd wanted so badly to believe this was more than coincidence, that fate had handed him a second chance at something real. But maybe he'd been wrong. Maybe he was just a footnote in Lily's story, A name on a DNA report, nothing more. And maybe it was time to start acting like it. Chapter 11, The Grand Gesture. Joshua Myers had always believed words could change lives. He'd seen it happen. Letters that healed wounds, stories that sparked hope, sentences that made children believe in magic. But tonight, sitting alone in his study with a blank page glowing on his laptop, Joshua wondered if words could mend his own mistakes. The memory of Claire's voice haunted him. I just don't want him too involved. It looped endlessly, sharp and cold, until Joshua couldn't tell if it was truth or misunderstanding. He hadn't asked. He just walked away, because that's what he did, retreated when things got messy. But Lily deserved better. Claire deserved better. And maybe, just maybe, Joshua deserved a chance to say what he couldn't say out loud. He opened a new document and typed 2 words, for Lily and Claire. Then he began to write. It wasn't an Evelyn story, not exactly. It was something new, something raw and tender. A tale about a girl who thought she was ordinary until she discovered her father was a quiet hero. Not the kind who fought dragons, but the kind who showed up when it mattered. A man who learned that bravery wasn't about battles. It was about love. Joshua wrote through the night, pouring every unsaid word into the story. His fear, his hope, his apology, his promise. By dawn, the pages were filled with laughter and magic, but beneath the whimsy lay something real. His heart. He printed the story, slipped it into a simple folder, and drove to Claire's house before he could lose his nerve. The January air was sharp, biting at his cheeks as he climbed the porch steps. His pulse thudded like a drumline in his ears. Claire opened the door, surprise flickering across her face. Joshua, he swallowed hard. I wrote something. For you. For Lily. Her brows knit. Joshua, you didn't have to. I did, he said, his voice rough. Because I didn't explain. I didn't ask. I just left. And that's not who I want to be. Claire stared at him, her hazel eyes searching his. Slowly, she took the folder, her fingers brushing his in a way that sent a jolt through him. Read it, Joshua whispered. If you still think I'm overstepping, I'll back off. But if you don't, he trailed off, unable to finish. Claire nodded, her expression unreadable, and Joshua turned to leave before his courage cracked. He didn't make it to the car. Joshua, Claire called softly. He turned. She stood in the doorway, the folder pressed to her chest, her eyes shimmering with something that made his breath catch. Stay, she said. Joshua froze. Stay. Claire nodded, her smile small but certain. Lily's inside. She'd love to see you. And so would I. Joshua felt the weight in his chest dissolve, replaced by something light and fierce. He climbed the steps slowly, like a man stepping into a new chapter, one he hadn't dared to imagine. As the door closed behind him, Joshua realized something. Words had saved him after all, not just on the page but in life. Because sometimes, the bravest thing you can do isn't fight dragons. It's write the truth and hope someone believes it. Chapter 12, Love. Actually, Joshua Myers had never been good at speeches. He could write dialogue that made readers laugh, cry, and believe in magic. But when it came to speaking his own truth, words tangled like knots. So as he sat on Claire's couch that evening, Lily upstairs finishing homework, Joshua felt like a man about to walk a tightrope without a net. Claire set the folder, the story he'd written, on the coffee table. Her fingers lingered on the cover, tracing the title, The Girl Who Found Her Brave. She looked up, her hazel eyes warm but steady. I read it, she said softly. Joshua swallowed hard. And Claire smiled. A small, luminous smile that made his chest ache. It was beautiful. Joshua exhaled, relief washing through him like sunlight after rain. I meant every word. I know, Claire said. Her voice was gentle, but there was weight in it, something that made Joshua's pulse quicken. Joshua, why didn't you just tell me how you felt? Joshua rubbed the back of his neck, his laugh shaky. Because I'm better at writing than talking. And because I wasn't sure if I had the right. Claire tilted her head. The right. Joshua nodded, his throat tight. To want more than this arrangement. To want you. Silence stretched, thick and fragile. Joshua braced for rejection. For the polite smile and the words that would send him back to his quiet, predictable life. Instead, Claire reached across the space between them and took his hand. Her touch was warm, grounding, and Joshua felt the knots inside him unravel. You have the right, she said softly. Because I want that too. Joshua stared at her, stunned. You do. Claire's smile widened, her eyes shimmering. I do. Joshua laughed, a breathless, disbelieving sound. And then, before he could overthink, he leaned in. Their lips met in a kiss that was soft at first, tentative, then deepened into something that felt like a promise. A new chapter. A story neither of them had planned, but both wanted to write. When they pulled apart, Joshua rested his forehead against hers, his voice low and rough. I'm terrified. Claire smiled. Me too. Joshua chuckled, his heart thudding in a rhythm he hadn't felt in years. Guess that makes us brave. Claire laughed softly, and Joshua thought it was the most beautiful sound he'd ever heard. Upstairs, Lily's music drifted faintly through the house, a cheerful melody that seemed to echo the moment. Joshua squeezed Claire's hand, feeling the weight of the past fall away, replaced by something light and fierce. For the first time in his life, Joshua Myers wasn't thinking about deadlines or manuscripts. He was thinking about love. Messy, unexpected, terrifying love. And he was ready for it. Chapter 13, Happily Ever Afterish. Joshua Myers had always thought life worked best when it was predictable. Neat schedules, quiet weekends, and stories that stayed safely on the page. But now, standing in his kitchen on a Saturday morning, flipping pancakes while Lily hums along to a playlist and Claire laughs at his questionable cooking skills, Joshua realizes something. Unpredictability isn't so bad. Dad, you're burning them, Lily says, pointing at the skillet. Joshua glances down, grimacing at the charred edges. They're artisanal. Claire snorts. That's one word for it. Joshua grins, handing her the spatula. Fine, you win. Chef duties are yours. Claire takes over with practiced ease, and Joshua leans against the counter, watching her move, confident, graceful, completely at home. The sight sends a quiet warmth through him, the kind that feels permanent. Lily plops onto a stool, scrolling through her phone. By the way, she says casually, Harper says you're trending. Joshua groans. Trending? Yep. Lily smirks. The video from the book signing? Over 100,000 views. Joshua rubs his face. Great. So much for anonymity. Claire laughs, sliding a golden pancake onto a plate. You'll survive celebrity. Joshua shakes his head, but he's smiling. Because the truth is, he doesn't mind anymore. The quiet life he clung to for so long has been replaced by something louder, messier, and infinitely better. After breakfast, they pile into the car for a trip to the bookstore. Lily wants more markers for her next project, and Joshua promised to sign a few copies for the manager who nearly fainted last time. Claire rides shotgun, her hand resting lightly on Joshua's arm as they talk about everything and nothing. Favorite movies? Bad coffee. The absurdity of talking toasters. And Joshua thinks, this is it. This is the story I didn't know I was writing. Later, as evening settles and Lily disappears upstairs with homework, Joshua and Claire curl up on the couch, a blanket draped over their legs. The house hums with quiet, but it's not the old kind of quiet, the lonely, echoing silence he used to know. It's warm, alive, filled with laughter that lingers like music. Joshua turns to Claire, his voice low. You know, I used to think happy endings were for books. Claire smiles, her fingers intertwining with his. Maybe they're just beginnings in disguise. Joshua chuckles softly, pressing a kiss to her temple. I like that. Outside, snow begins to fall, soft, silent, painting the world in white. Joshua watches it through the window, his heart steady, his mind clear. For the first time in years, he isn't waiting for life to happen. He's living it. And if this isn't a happily ever after, Joshua thinks, it's close enough.